So Herbert, it's a real pleasure and an honor to interview you. You were elected as Vice President of the EPF first, and
Yes.
you were Vice President from 2016 to 2020.
Yes.
With Jorge Canestri as President.
Right.
And then you were elected as President-elect of the EPF in 2019 at the Madrid conference.
Yes.
In the Madrid conference. So the first question is, what interested you to take on this task? First as Vice President and then as President. What motivated you?
Yes, my main motivation was and still is the international cooperation and collaboration of psychoanalysts all over the world. I'm very much interested in the scientific life of psychoanalysis and psychoanalysts, and I think we all as psychoanalysts need a wide horizon and not to stick to our own local areas. It's very important to grow up and to be educated and trained in a local area. But from my training on, I was very interested what was happening in the world, in Europe and the world. And so I was always happy to visit international conferences of the EPF, of the IPA. And so this was natural for me to be interested also in this international cooperation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you were already involved in also scientific exchanges in end of training evaluation, I think is one of the projects you were already involved in, with exchanges between different societies, different institutes about training.
Yeah, you are right. This was my my own personal development. I was director of training of the German Psychoanalytical Association, the DPV. And I participated also early in this end of training evaluation project, the ETEP. And I was very much interested also in how to do supervision in training. And very important question, how can we find out when a candidate is ready to qualify? This was a very interesting and very fruitful project, and this was also the way I gradually came into the EPF more and more. I was already in the EPF and visited conferences, of course, but this end of training evaluation project was very fascinating. And I participated in it several years, and as it was also project of the EPF, it came from the working party of the EPF, so there was the connection to the EPF, and this was just my way, my personal way to come into the EPF.
So it was really a scientific beginning, psychoanalytic scientific work at the beginning of your involvement.
Yeah, it was not so much, I think, initially not administrative. It was really, as you say, a scientific question and a scientific concern also, and I very much like this project until today. I've learned a lot by myself also, and this was the reason what I wanted also to continue in the EPF, just to enlarge our scientific findings and exchanges.
And then you won. Just as you'd been elected as president-elect and you were about to take over as president, the transition between your board and the previous board was the previous executive was supposed to take place at the Vienna conference in Palm weekend 2020, and just before that, the COVID crisis, the COVID-19 crisis set in. So everything became disorganized and had to be changed because of the COVID crisis.
Yeah, this was a shock. I think the whole pandemic was a shock for the whole society, for everybody of us, but also for us in the EPF, because we just started to have our handover between the then old executive, where Jorge Canestri was the president and I was the vice president. And we met in Nice in January 2020. We met with the then so-called old or still present committee
present,
and the new one. And but we wanted to prepare the handover in Vienna. And then the pandemic just increased dramatically. And we had, unfortunately, to decide to cancel the conference in Vienna. And so we had to do our handover online. We met online and we had to cancel the conference. And this was the beginning of a big challenge for almost the next 1.5 until 2 years, how to keep the EPF alive during this time of lockdown. And so it was not so easy also for the new executive to come together, to meet together. I think we knew each other already a little bit before, but just to grow together as a team, you need personal exchanges, you need meetings, and we all had to do this online. So this was not so easy, but finally, I think we managed it. I was personally also very sad that we couldn't have the handover between Jorge and me, especially as Jorge then passed away in January 21, which was really, really sad for me because and not only for me, or for all of us, but I personally have learned so much from Jorge during his time of his presidency. And I would have liked to have him on my side, at my side. But so we had to face this sad truth that he passed away, and then we had also to find a way to deal with the fact that we could only meet at the first time, I think, in person again in September 21 as a new executive in Brussels, in the house. And then we started on one hand we had already done our online conference in 21. So we decided, as we canceled the conference in Vienna in 2020, we decided to have an online conference in 21, which went more or less well. And then we started to prepare the next in-person conference for Vienna. We dared to do it in the following year in 2022. We were not sure whether we would be able to do it, but finally we were lucky to be able to do this.
And then in Vienna in 2022, COVID hit again. Many people at the conference fell ill, including me.
Yes, for instance, Bernard Reith. Sorry for this.
No, but it was a terrible time.
Yes, it was.
It was an awful time.
It was.
So it meant that you had to build a team without being able to be together in person physically, which must have been very difficult. It meant also that you had to mourn Jorge, who was a father figure and a mentor to many of us. And were you able to visit him when he fell ill, or was it impossible?
I contacted his wife. I had continuous contact with his wife Nilda, and but he was too ill. It was not possible.
It was not possible to see him.
But what we could do, and this I'm very happy about this. In a way, I'm also a bit of proud that we could organize this symposium on time, because this was one of the ideas of Jorge, that we should organize an interdisciplinary symposium on the question of time. And I spoke with him already during his lifetime, and also with Leo Blaser. And we three wanted to organize the symposium on time. And only after his death, I was able to find a physicist from Germany, an historian from France, and a neurologist who was working as a neurobiologist from Italy or Switzerland. He is originally from Italy, but he lives in Switzerland. And we had a colleague, Bernard Reith, from Germany as an analyst. And then in April 2022, we could organize this symposium on time in Brussels. This was a hybrid conference. This was the first try just to organize meetings in person, but to keep also the online version. And this was, I think, for two reasons. I like this symposium very much because I liked it from just the content. It was very fruitful to have an exchange with these different scientists and to bring psychoanalysis in contact with other sciences. And the other important reason is that it was a kind of homage also to Jorge. Yeah? We did this also in the memory of Jorge. And finally, I was able to edit a book, first only in German, unfortunately only in German, because two of the authors had some copyrights in English, but now I'm hopeful we are working on the English edition of it. So this is something which I'm also very happy about, that we could do this. And this is still something in a kind of also a memory to Jorge Canestri, who was really a great president of the EPF. A big head, yeah. Very open-minded and very productive thinker. Yeah.
You're executive because just as you were finding solutions to work with and despite the COVID pandemic, there was the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Right.
Which must have been a huge challenge for your executive, and especially for you as president.
Yes.
To keep the dialogue alive within the EPF and to support all the parties involved.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
I remember very well, and also, well, not in the sense that it was good, but well in the way that it really also hit me, the situation. Because just to make a short explanation, as we canceled the conference in Vienna in 2020, we didn't cancel it, we postponed it. So we had an arrangement with the hotel and the conference center that we should do the conference in 2022.
Yeah.
So and we kept also the program. And then to prepare the conference in Vienna for 2022, we placed it in the summer, which is unusual for the EPF. Usually, we have our conferences before Easter mostly, except when there is Passover. Then we have to find another date for our Jewish colleagues. It's important just to include them. But for this time, 2022, we had this time in July, and then the new executive met in February in Vienna, and we met 2 days after the Russian war of aggression started. And yeah, so I remember the time where we all came together and were also very shocked about this brutal aggression. And this was, I think, on a general level, that everybody who's living, I would now say, in a free world, in the world of European thought about that, respecting the other people's freedom, is shocked about. But then we had also to face the fact what is happening to our Ukrainian colleagues.
Yes.
First, but then also what is happening to our Russian colleagues, who I would say are analysts, and they are not military people. And this was, in a way, still is a big challenge for us, because there were at least 2 or 3 different layers of support. First, for our Ukrainian colleagues, there was this emotional support to show them that we are there, that we just are on their sides and support also their fight for freedom. Yeah, and but also then the next level to help them for those who wanted or had to emigrate from Ukraine because they were in danger. And the third level was the financial help, because we also wanted to give them some financial support whereas this is something perhaps which Andrea Gardini can talk about as the treasurer, but we immediately decided to give some, I think, very, very good financial support, and together then with the IPA. And we also tried to organize some help for colleagues who came to different countries of Europe. And we had a kind of a working group where we managed these exchanges and tried to help those who came to Europe, and also those who worked as Ukrainian colleagues from Europe to patients in Ukraine. And several of them wanted to remain in Ukraine to help Ukrainian traumatized citizens. So, and we as EPF were very much involved in this too, just to support this. And I must say, I very much admire those Ukrainian colleagues who were working for this and are still working for this. They are very brave, even if they are suffering a lot by themselves. But then I want to say this here too. I think there's the problem also, the relation between the Ukrainian colleagues and the Russian colleagues. Yes. It was not always so easy, because what I personally can understand, when you are attacked as a country and you find someone from the other country, then you are not so sure how can you deal. Is this man or this woman an enemy or not? Is he a colleague or an enemy? So this question, and the question, can we as analysts still remain colleagues?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Or is there suddenly a kind of opposition, or in the worst case, split between two different countries or different nationalities? This is something which we also try to manage, and I think that we could also just continue with a kind of, how can I call this, of support to each other, because we also organized during our council meetings in November online meetings between Ukrainian colleagues and Russian colleagues, and we invited them to talk about their experiences and to have a mutual exchange. And my impression is, I don't want to be too harmonious. I think there are problems still, but I think we could just manage that people of the different nationalities could remain in a collegial contact.
A real exchange was possible. I mean,
it was
not
possible.
necessarily
it was
harmonious
possible.
always, but it was possible to really have a dialogue.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes very moving dialogue. Very powerful stories were told on both sides.
Yeah, on both sides. I must say, I just said I admire the Ukrainian colleagues, but I also admire the Russian colleagues, at least from our group, because they were also very brave. It was not so easy for them. Because they are also in danger if they just speak out too loud what they think. So, but in this way, I think this is also what I personally like, that on the European level, that we as Europeans, as European analysts, could and can just cooperate and stick together. That is, despite all differences and also despite all conflicts we have, I think there is a basis, a common ground where we remain as colleagues.
There's being able to work together as colleagues, and there's also, I imagine, the very difficult issue of keeping psychoanalytic thinking alive when outside reality has such an impact on each of us, on our own minds, and it's a challenge, I think, as a person and as a group to keep psychoanalysis alive. Did you experience that like that?
Thank you for this remark and comment, Bernard, because I think you are very right. I think it helps also. We found out that psychoanalysis is really a common ground for all of us. you are right. There is the danger. We have this similar danger now with Israel and Hamas.
That was the next question I was going to ask you. Is the third situation with a huge impact, a terrible situation, also very conflictual, and
it is,
which is very moving to everybody. Everybody feels very involved.
It is. Yeah.
I interrupted you, but to say that it's really, again, a challenge.
No, it's what you say. I think there are two sides. I think that we as analysts should not stay away from dealing with the so-called outside world, or with political events. You remember, all know this famous story of Winnicott, where a bomb attack was in London, and the colleagues were talking about something analytically, and he stood up and said, "I want to just draw your attention to the fact that there outside is a bomb attack taking place," something like this.
I think it was during the controversial discussion.
Yeah, it was something during the discussion. So I think it's important for us that we as analysts do care about the political situation on one hand, but, and you mentioned this very well, there is the danger that we are also drawn away from our psychoanalytic common ground. And this was very challenging during this following 2 years after the Russian war of aggression, and now also with the Hamas attack and now the Gaza war, how to combine, on one hand, the awareness for what's going on in the world, how to deal with all the traumas that are taking place, and on the other hand, how not to give up our psychoanalytic thinking, talking, understanding. And for me, I think it turned out that talking about both aspects and but also concentrating what does it mean also in terms of psychoanalysis to deal with aggression, with hate, with despair, and also with trauma, with death, helps just to understand each other, and in a way also to contain all the sorrow and all the trauma, all the terrible experiences and also what people have. And so to say that in the EPF in this way, and also the different colleagues of the EPF, I think if we say this in terms of psychoanalysis, are a very important and potent container.
Mm-hmm. Well, talking about a container, you as president are both looked up to as a person who's in charge of containing, and also it's part of your function as well to hold these things with your executive, to hold the society, but also to hold it all inside. It must have been tough going.
Yeah, it is. You are right. But for this purpose, I think it's very important to have a team.
Yeah.
So, as a president, I didn't feel alone. So I had the executive as a team, and also we had our meetings, online meetings in person, and just to be able to function as this container, and also in a way to digest as a container, who is able not only to hold but also to digest something, just also on a group level, on a structural level of the group. I think it's important to do this as a president, but you as a president can only do this when you are in permanent contact with your colleagues and friends, and because this is mutual thinking. It helps just to be able to exert this function.
And I think you also had the council with you, the presidents of the component societies and study groups also.
Yeah, this is also very important. I must say I'm very grateful to both. I'm very grateful to the executive, the members of the executive, but I'm also very grateful to the council, to all the presidents of the council, because the council meets twice a year, once during the annual conferences, usually in spring, and then in November in Brussels in the house of the EPF. And the council is really a kind of a think tank. Yeah. Also, it's not only something just to work on only pure administration. It's also, and this is very fruitful and very stimulating, to have an exchange about psychoanalytic thinking and understanding. And this helps also just to continue with this containing function.
Yeah.
So we are all together in this way. Yeah.
Yes, we are. Yeah. And then you also had to preside over a number of institutional changes. One was moving the legal seat from Switzerland to Belgium.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of work.
This was a long, unexpected long way, because the EPF in former times was located, had its legal seat in Switzerland, in Zurich.
Yeah.
You as a Swiss citizen, you
I
know it. But as the house is in Brussels, it didn't make sense. Yeah? That there is the legal seat of the EPF in Switzerland, especially as to have a legal seat in Switzerland, you need a person and also a kind of official venue or building to be in Switzerland. And it was not possible anymore. And I think it makes sense. And then we started to relocate the legal seat from Switzerland to Brussels, Belgium. But it turned out that this was really a long, long way. I didn't expect it, because we had to, let's say, translate the constitution of if the Swiss, which is how is it valid in Switzerland, to Belgium and to Belgian law. And it's not always the same. So we had to reformulate the constitution, not so much just in terms of the internal content, but in forms of wordings, of formulations, and so. And finally, I was lucky to sign the final document in January this year. I went to Brussels and made the signature, and now we are an ASBL. This means Association sans but lucratif. So an association without financial purposes.
Very good French.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
Brussels is the seat of the European institutions and everything, so
Right.
it makes sense to be
Right.
there
Yeah.
for a European federation. So. And then the other big change, institutional change, was the end of the European Psychoanalytic Institute, the EPI.
Yeah. This was also important. There was for long after the fall of the Iron Curtain, and so just as psychoanalysis opened to Western, from Western to Eastern Europe, there was this Eastern European Institute, EPI, where we invited and supported all those interested colleagues who wanted to become psychoanalysts in Eastern Europe. And there was this Eastern European Institute, and this was supported in a joint activity by the IPA and the EPF. But and this went on for years, we wanted to strengthen just the autonomy of the Eastern European societies. There are several Eastern European societies which now are able and should be able to do their own training. And so we decided together with the IPA, last decision was in London, during the IPA conference in London. I think it was 2019. No?
Yeah,
2019.
So,
that the EPI should finish in 2023, in summer 2023. And this, we did it. And I think I was there at the last conference last summer. I appreciated it very much. I see that it was very helpful to support the Eastern European colleagues. But I must say, even if there were some regrets and there was also some sorrow about the fact that now this EPI has ended, I personally must say that I trust our Eastern European colleagues that they now are autonomous enough and have developed their own competencies that they are able to to offer psychoanalytic training for interested candidates in Eastern Europe. But what was also very important, we decided not just only to leave a kind of a hole of an empty space, but we then decided to invent or create a new structure. And for the first time, we organized a candidate seminar in the EPF for all candidates of Europe, not only for Eastern Europe, but for Eastern and Western and North and South Europe, so all over Europe. And this candidate seminar took place for the first time, here in this year, February this year. And it was just organized by Joël. I think Joël Picard can also talk about it, perhaps. Mm-hmm. So I must say, even if I know that some of Eastern European colleagues have a kind of longing for this institute, I must say I find it good that we could also finish this. And I think this, for me, is a step of development. That yes, we could say now we have a new step in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. It's of course always very sad when things end.
Yes, of course.
And it's also true that the Institute had an important role in helping people in Eastern Europe to develop psychoanalysis.
Yeah.
But as you say, there may also come a difficult moment when one has to let people take over themselves. And so now you have been elected as president-elect to the International Psychoanalytic Association.
Right. Yeah.
And you will take over your functions as president of the IPA in 2025.
Right.
And you're now functioning with them as president-elect.
Yeah.
What motivated you to continue and to run for the IPA presidency?
And I think for me, it's a continuation of what I said in the beginning of our talk. As EPF president, I came in contact more and more with presidents of other regional associations like Latin America. From FEPAL, FEPAL is Federação Associação Analítica Psychoanalytic Latin America. Yeah. I'm not sure. I didn't cite it well enough, but it's just the Latin American Region Association. And there is the North American region. There is APSA and NAPSAC. Yeah. And what I want to say, I had more and more contact with these international colleagues. And again, it was for me something which broadened my horizon. I'm very interested in other cultures. I don't think that I'm a European, of course, and I like Europe, but I'm also interested in how other people think. Yeah, in Latin America, North America, and also Asia. Now we are developing the Asia-Pacific region, or now also to Africa. So when we look all over the world, and I was fascinated by the way how in different cultures psychoanalysis is on one hand, one can say, done differently, but there are also common ground which we all share. And this was the reason why I became more and more curious, and also interested how the International Psychoanalytic Association could grow, could develop also scientifically, because it's so important that psychoanalysis will stay alive in the world. And so gradually, more and more, I became more and more curious, and I decided. And some people, of course, it was not only my own decision. Some said you could do this. So I was encouraged to stand for election, and so finally I dared to stand for the election, and luckily I was elected. Yeah.
But it took some daring.
It took some daring. Yeah.
And wanting to work at the service of psychoanalysis.
Yes.
What you're saying is that it's in the service of psychoanalysis as a profession. I
must say, I think imagine that this is more or less true for all of us as psychoanalysts. I think psychoanalysis, for me, now I have to be careful because I think it's something which belongs to my life. Yeah, but it's not only I have a family, I have a wife, I have children, I have grandchildren, so I have a private life. But to think, what is the sense of my life? I don't want to be too pathetic, but I think psychoanalysis is something which I'm convinced of. Yeah, I must say that psychoanalysis helped me personally a lot. But it's not only a question of psychic help. I think the way of thinking, also of understanding the world, of phenomena in the world, what's going on psychically in different places, also politically. I think psychoanalysis has a lot to say. Also the cultural theory of psychoanalysis, not only the clinical theory, also the cultural theory is very, very important. And so I would say that for me, it's also, even if it's a lot of work, it's a personal gain and also satisfying for me to be able and to have the feeling that I can just work on these ideas, on this methodology, of these concepts, which I appreciate. This is what I want to bring forward.
Well, since you opened up about you personally, my last question will be a personal, very personal question. Has doing all this work changed anything for you in your view of psychoanalysis, your view of the world, of life? What impact has it had on you?
Yeah, I think the main impact for me is that I became more aware of the necessity to take into account the use of the others, to find a balance between my own position as psychoanalyst, that I have my own convictions, or also my personal style, but that I see there are also a lot of other colleagues who work on one hand perhaps similar, but on the other hand also differently from me. And I think it's a richness for all of us, and also for me personally, to be able to balance between my own position in the way I'm working, but also to be aware and also to appreciate what is going on around me and differently from me. So this is my personal gain also from all this work.
Yeah, I can join you there. I think that's one of the tasks we have ahead, is promoting the dialogue and finding ways, also finding good ways to promote the dialogue that you are fighting for. Thank you very much, Heribert.
Yeah, thank you, Bernard. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this interview.
Yeah, thank you.